are so incredible. I'm thrilled to introduce our next honoree. Our higher education members are incredibly diverse, from tenured professor to adjunct to techs to support staff to graduate student. Each member contributes to a system of higher learning that the Americans can be proud of. Arnold Korotkin is a sociological professor at Montclair State University. When he sees a need, he steps in to fill it. It doesn't matter whether he has a personal stake in the issue. It's the right thing to do, so he does it. He has been active in helping the survivors of 9/11. He has fought for lead-free water in Newark schools. He's convinced the New Jersey transit system to build shelters for bus riders. And at his local at Montclair State University, Arnie co-directs COPE and keeps members informed on all things activists in New Jersey. He is an adjunct sociological professor, enthusiastically finding a new and creative way for his students to learn on the job. Arnie's generosity with his time and talent has served countless people. For that, we call him our everyday hero. Ernie.
Brothers and sisters, I'm really honored, thank you, Rich, to be the recipient of the 2016 Everyday Hero Award in the Higher Ed Division. I've been a union member of AFSCME and the AFT for 44 years. I look forward in 6 years to being at the convention to celebrate my golden anniversary. But I said in the morning, you know, I was trained as a community organizer, and in the hallway, in the main hall, there was a table where they asked people to define what is a community organizer. And I wrote down troublemaker. And I went to graduate school at New York University, 1970 to 72, and believe it or not, there was a major in community organizing. And we learned the methods, even though our president got sort of bashed for his friendship with Bill Ayers and Saul Alinsky. I was trained in the Alinsky model of organizing. And I said the purpose is to be a troublemaker. To organize, you have to show people that there's a conflict, that there's an inequity, and that there's a need for change. So I've been stressing that. But I've also been impressed by the theme for this year's convention, generation to generation, honoring our past and inspiring our future. And just way of background, I'm sure, you know, my background is as a sociology professor. We are who we are based on our roots. And I grew up in a very interesting family. My grandfather came to this country a little over 100 years ago. He escaped the pogroms in Austria-Hungary, which is now Poland, and was active in the Leather Workers Union. My aunt, if you know Brooklyn, I don't know where Randy is, I wanted to hide my Brooklyn accent. Proud graduate of Brooklyn College when it was free, tuition free, till 1972. But my aunt lived in this Canarsie section of Brooklyn. In the mid-60s, it was predominantly white, Italian, and Jewish, working class. My aunt was on the school board, the executive committee, and she voted in favor of busing to integrate the schools of Canarsie, to the chagrin of her neighbors. She had inner strength. And last but not least, my mom. She was a single mom. We were living in Florida in 1950. And I'm saying these because we learned by the examples of our parents. And I remember it like it happened yesterday. I was on a bus with my mom, and she asked me to get up to give a black woman a seat. I, as a 5-year-old at the time, did it gleefully because I was able to hold on to the pole and swing around. But it wasn't until an adult that I realized, you know, a single white woman doing this. It was before Brown versus Board of Education, 1953-54. It was before the Civil Rights Act. So I grew up in a home where I was inspired. And the last example was sort of humorous. My parents read regularly the New York Post before Murdoch took it over. For those of you from New York, it used to be a very liberal newspaper. But as a young kid on Sunday mornings, there was someone who read the comics on the radio. And I saved up my allowance and I bought the Sunday comic so I can read it along with the commentator. And my grandfather, may he rest in peace, looked at me and shouted, "How could you bring that paper into the house?" For those in New York, it was the Journal American. It was a very conservative newspaper. So I learned by their examples and by their deeds. And in some ways, it's reminiscent of the quote by George Bernard Shaw, "Some people see things and say, why? But I dream things that never were, and I say, why not?" And throughout my professional career and my advocacy career, I've done exactly that. Just some things in brief. In terms of being an AFT member in the workplace, I've been involved in the effort to stop the corporatization of education, both on the higher ed level and in the community public schools. I've been involved in the campaign for pay equity for adjuncts, something that the presumptive Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton mentioned. And as many of you know firsthand, adjunct professors tend to need to work at several institutions in order to earn a living wage. And ironically, even with this schedule, may be barely able to live and earn a living wage. Many depend, believe it or not, on food stamps. And despite this, adjuncts are hired on a semester-by-semester basis, and when not offered reemployment, not rehired, they're denied unemployment benefits. More interestingly, on the community level, when I graduated from Brooklyn College, being young and idealistic, not that I'm still young and idealistic, I joined VISTA, which was the Domestic Peace Corps. I served the year. I should preface that by saying, Richard Mendez, who was my mentor at the time, asked me, "Why are you joining VISTA?" And I said, "It's the right thing to do." I didn't want to join the Peace Corps, which was 2 years. VISTA was only a year. I thought I could make a difference in Lyndon Johnson's war on poverty. So I was assigned to Chicago, Illinois. Those of you who know Chicago, I was assigned to, I even remember the address, the Isham Y at 1515 North Ogden, on the perimeter of the Cabrini Green Housing Project, the largest housing project for poor people in the state of Illinois and probably in the nation. That's since been imploded. But I rapidly learned that VISTA, the Office of Economic Opportunities, wasn't really battling poverty. And I began to put out a newsletter called The Wrap that was designed to tell the truth about the war on poverty. And along with that, I don't know if I do this as an adult, I incorporated in the state of Illinois, and the RAP stood for Radicals Against Poverty. And we continued for a year, and the end result is that Vistas had very horrible, not only did we get subsistence income, living, but very poor working conditions. And in August of 1970, with the help of Vista and Vistas throughout the United States, a group of us had a convention in Washington, D.C., and formed the National Vista Alliance, which advocated for rights of Vista volunteers, improved working conditions. The other interesting thing I want to share with you is, as you mentioned, I've been very involved with 9/11, with first responders and families. And that came about, I was a director of community building for United Way in Passaic County, New Jersey. And I was given the assignment after 9/11 to reach out to families that lost loved ones. And you can realize it's hard enough to reach out to when you lose a loved one in your family, but these were strangers. And fortunately, in Passaic County, there were about 12 families that lost someone. And there was one woman, her name was Diane. Her husband worked for Cantor Fitzgerald, and he didn't survive. He was a victim of 9/11. She had 4 children under the age of 16. And Diane said to me, because of the tragedy, she stopped listening to the news, watching TV. You might remember right after 9/11, they still showed people jumping out of the Twin Towers, which they shortly ceased showing. So I said, you know, I have information that you need. Give me your email address. I'll send you the information, open it when you want it, or just simply delete it. And from that day forth, literally from September of 2001, even when I'm here in, what state am I in?
Minnesota.
Thank you, Minnesota. God, I'm having a senior moment. But I brought my laptop, and as some people get my coat mailing, every morning before 7 o'clock, before 8 o'clock, I send out to a list of 5,000 family members. And it brings to mind, when we talk about the election and the Republicans meeting, there are 2 prominent people that I encountered. One is Rudy Giuliani. You know, before 9/11, Rudy couldn't have been elected dog catcher. And the 9/11 families You know, the firefighters lost 343 firefighters on 9/11, and they blame Rudy, because what happened was the firefighters were using Motorola radios that didn't have repeater capability. So when firefighters were ordered to evacuate the Twin Towers, they didn't get the message. And Rudy knew that and did nothing. The second example is with our governor, who was the valet for Donald Trump, Chris Christie. 4 years ago, Chris Christie was a keynote speaker at the Republican convention in Miami. And right before that, after that convention, is usually the annual 9/11 event at Ground Zero. And traditionally, Governor Christie arranged for a ferry to take 9/11 families from Jersey City State Park to Ground Zero. This year, he didn't. So on my 9/11 news service, a 9/11 family member had a petition, and I put the petition online, you know, blasting Governor Christie for not doing this. And somehow a reporter at the Huffington Post picked up the story. And the headline was, while Christie basks in Miami, he screws New Jersey 9/11 families. Well, the very next day, Christie's director of first responders found my email address at Montclair State University and said, call me. And I called him. And those of you who are familiar with Bridgegate, a lot of people are accusing, you know, Christie was and still is, in my opinion, a bully. And whether or not he directed his employees to stop the traffic at Fort Lee on the George Washington Bridge, he created a culture of being a bully. And I experienced that firsthand. I get this call, I call back, and I get accused. Why did I make these statements about the governor? Like I was under these hot lights, I was being grilled. And I said, you know, don't shoot the messenger. I'll give you the name of the family member who sent me the petition, and call him. And the officer did, and I'll tell you, within 48 hours, the ferry service was restored. And the backdrop to the story was, it wasn't restored until that petition was online, because when the paper interviewed the ferry service, which did it gratis, they refused to be interviewed. So I'm suspect that the governor's office never did it. But in closing, oh, and one last thing that I did, the news service, I should say I'm very proud of this, because the people I've met in my life are, other than Randy, fellow New Yorker, are incredible. The 9/11 news service did some incredible things. In the early days, there were 4 Jersey suburban housewives who were nicknamed the Jersey Girls. My news service provided them with information that enabled them to lobby in D.C. for the formation of the 9/11 Commission. And more recently, the 9/11 news service was instrumental in having the health care bill extended for first responders. And just last week, the 9/11 families, with the help of my news service, got the 29 pages that had accusations about Saudi Arabia's involvement in the 9/11 support of some of the terrorists. So it's done a hell of a lot. But in closing, I want to say, all of us here today, as involved union members, are in a sense an everyday hero. As union members, in the words perhaps of Margaret Mead, we should never forget nor doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So thank you, AFT, for this recognition, and thank you, brothers and sisters, for your involvement. Keep up the fight. Randy, thank you. Thank you.
I'm very proud to step up here and call Valentina Washington, an accountant from the Baltimore County Health Department, that's my hometown, is a problem solver and a champion for the people of Baltimore, Maryland. Her enthusiasm and power of analysts help on the job, and she understands the challenges public employees face, which led her to become a union steward and led her for the leader for the Baltimore County Federation of Public Employees. Sheer scope of Valentina's community involvement is amazing. As a mom, she's a volunteer at her children's schools and speaks out at the school board meeting. She is active in her neighborhood civic association. She volunteers as a Little League parent coach. And to top it all off, Valentina is working towards a master's degree in accounting and information system. So how does she do it all? We sure would like to know. but she does all that, and now she's our hero. Please welcome Valentina Washington, our AFT public employee, everyday hero.
Hello there, my brothers and sisters. I know it's been such a long, long day for us, so I'm not gonna keep you that long. Besides, the battery on my phone is about to die where my speech is at. So, I just wanna take this time out to say thank you. Thank you to my Heavenly Father for forever bestowing blessings and blessings upon me, even though I don't deserve them. I wanna thank you to my parents who couldn't be here because of their work schedules. But at the same time, I want to send a special thank you to a lady known as my stepmom, but I call her my mom because she stands in the gap for me each and every time. Mama Valerie, I love you. I want to say thank you to my husband for tolerating me so much and understanding that I want to be there to do the work for the people. I want to say thanks to my kids who's watching me somehow, some way, for understanding that mommy does have to leave from time to time. And I also want to say that these are my precious 2 little black men that I pray that someday do not end up to be the next Trayvon Martin, to be the next Freddie Gray, to be the next Alton Sterling, or the next Philando Castile. However, I pray that one day they'll be great, just like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and our great president, President Obama. Last but certainly not least, I would like to thank my mentor, our union president, John Ripley, his first lady, Mary Ripley, and our executive board for always being that support for me, for always standing behind me, even when I don't make the best decisions. They are very, very helpful, and I'm the reason why you guys are here. I'm here. I'm sorry. You're the reason why you guys are here. I'm so nervous. You're doing great. I just wanted to say something to give you a little background on why I do what I do. And I lost my son in 2000, my firstborn son, at the tender age of 19 months. In 2005, I quit my 2 jobs that I was working to take care of him. After he passed, I felt like a part of me left. However, the nurses were so instrumental in helping me get through it all. The social workers was helpful in helping me cope with his death. I began to ask myself, Valentina, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna sit there and cry about it? Or are you gonna be a change agent for people? How can you help other people? That is when I became a county employee in 2007 and decided that I need to make a difference in somebody's life. I realized how important the union was and how it was very important for us to be parts of the union. The union has helped me in so many ways, and I promise I'm gonna wrap it up. But I just wanna say that they allowed me to return to school under our tuition reimbursement program. I became a certified addictions counselor to help people that were struggling with substance use, okay? My next step, I said, well, what can you do to help the people that you work alongside? Why sit there and crunch numbers all day? I decided that was my chance. That was my chance to be more involved in the union, to become more involved in my community. So therefore, I set aside that time to help those that were in need of help for our organization. Those that were actually in trouble would come to me. I recruit daily. I recruited people while I was here, just by the way, so you know. I've been getting messages while I've been on vacation, technically, saying I need your help. We'll take care of that when we're done, John. But most important of all, I just wanted to say that as long as I have breath in my body, I will stand with our brothers and sisters to ensure that we work to prevent the privatizations of our jobs as public servants. I will stand with our brothers and sisters to ensure that we all receive equal pay and benefits. I will stand with our brothers and sisters working in the criminal justice system to ensure that they are protected against those wishing to cause harm. I will also stand with those of the Black Lives Matter movement that are working to hold accountable officers that are unnecessarily killing our brothers and sisters, especially those that look like me. In closing, as Martin Luther King Jr. once said, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I must stand, you must stand, we all must stand. Come November, I stand with her. Thank you.